Good afternoon, everyone. Chris Berryman here, coalition builder and founder of Bringing Humanity Together. And you know what today is? It is Wonderful Wednesday. Welcome, everyone, to our Bringing Humanity Together live stream. This is one under three open forums under the Bringing Humanity Together umbrella, where people can discuss topics related to the workplace and humanity in the workplace in a very positive and constructive way. We want to know what the issues that are out there that are facing people today because it's our goal, our mission, our purpose, our calling here at Bringing Humanity Together to work with both employees and employers to bring humanity back into the workforce. And as always, we'll be going live every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, all at 3 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. And just remember, on all our conversation calls that we have, whether it be share and care, conversations for humanity, or humanity happy hour, we do a meet and greet from 2:45 to 3, and from 3 to 4 is the actual conversation call. So please feel free as you jump on, comment, chat with us. Now, if you have any questions or concerns or even show topics, we would love to hear from you. And we'll also like to have a one-on-one with you down the road too as well. And even if you're watching this on the replay, use the hashtag in the comment section, whether it be our business page on Facebook or on our YouTube channel or on our LinkedIn Live here. Use the hashtag replay and still let us know where you're watching from. And also, we'd like to reach out to you. And just to let you guys know, we can have up to 10 people on the call at a time. So, live links is already in the live links, and you will see it in today's live stream. That it will be in the comment section, and it will say Sharon Kara Sandy Conversations for Humanity and then Humanity Happy Hour. All you have to do is click Conversations for Humanity, and you can be able to join us through that live link. So, hello, Miss Sandy.
Hi, Chris. It's another good day.
That it is. And hello, Michael Baker. How are you doing today, sir? We would love you to join us when you can. I'm sorry that you're still in the hospital, Michael, but just wishing you the best and everything. And glad you were able to join us today. Uh, like I said, our thoughts, our prayers are with you, Michael. We wish you the best. We miss you. And like I said, if there's anything you need, just please let us know. We just love to get back in touch with you because I know you got a lot of stuff going on. But
Get
don't
better soon, Michael.
yeah.
We miss you. We're sorry that you're in the hospital and having trouble. We miss you. We like your input.
Yeah, so we're glad that you're still up and running and kicking because you're going to say, hey, not even a hospital bed's going to keep you from watching Conversation for Humanity. I'm still going to go. So that's the good thing about technology. You can go to a conversation whenever you can. That's the beauty of that. So, Michael, we miss you. Like our thoughts and prayers are with you today and you and your family. We're just glad that you're here. Ladies and gentlemen, I just want to let you know today, one of our guest speakers will be joining us here soon. His name is Ryan Sumner. He's a great friend of bringing humanity together. He loves joining on these calls. And more importantly, he brings a unique perspective because he's not only been in the realm of mergers and acquisitions for many years, but also he is an actual professor in the university system down in South Florida for many years too as well. He's like, I think if I remember, he told me he's like 12 years he was a university professor. So he's seen both sides of the dynamic from not only business but also academics. So he's going to bring us a great wealth of knowledge and valued insight when he joins us today. What he going to be talking about today is commitment and how can leaders and managers in the workplace can really truly work with the employees, which I call partners, because I don't believe in the word employees anymore. I believe partnerships are more valuable than employees, to be honest with you. So he's going to show that dynamic to us and create that conversation around that about how we can, like I said, uh, bring people together to where not only leaders win, but also employees win together each and every single day to where if the leader wins, great. And if the employee wins, that's even better. It creates that win-win dynamic and everything. So it's like what I said before many times. If you create better environments, you'll create better results. And it's just that simple, because if you just do the right thing, it is the right thing to do, and you can't go wrong with right. And of course, our greatest paradigm shift, I truly believe it's there, and it's from John C. Maxwell, is if we can be better listeners, we can become better learners, and then we can become better leaders and share that also with others, so they not only become better leaders, but more importantly, all of us can be better people as a community and as a whole organization. And I truly believe in that. So um, shared goals and mission and purpose of unity, bringing unity back to the community. Yeah, you're absolutely right, Michael. You are absolutely right. That is so true. Um, let's see. Is this Graham? Oh, yes, it is. Graham is here. Hello, Graham. We got to get you on the call, because this is going to sound like a good show. Yes, it will be, Graham, because you know who's leading the call. It is Brian. Now, mind you, the guy's got a lot of knowledge, like you do. So, Graham, I got to ask you, when are you going to join the call? When are you going to be here? Like I said, Graham, it's not about a gift card. I swear, Carla's only doing that for whatever purposes she's doing it for. I want you on. We want you on. We miss you.
We want to see you, Graham. Come on. We haven't seen you for a long time. Let's see your face.
Exactly. Because, Graham, you provide a lot of valuable insights too, as well. Even though you are commenting, which we love for you to comment, but we want to hear from you. We got to see you. I get so much out of it, Sandy, when I see somebody.
Yeah.
I just love the interaction. I love the engagement, because this is what I learned from Brian. And when it comes to connection and communication, I believe this is going to blow the lid off this conversation once we get it started. Back in 1960, when the first ever presidential debate was actually televised between John F. Kennedy and Richard Nixon, and also it aired live via the radio back then, there's going to be two different perspectives going to be kind of done in tow. And this is what I learned from Brian. The people who saw the actual debate thought Kennedy won, but people who listened to the debate thought Nixon won. So there's a big, huge connection in the two, because if one people said X person won, and then so many people only heard it and said X person won, well, how is that? But Brian has said, though, to me before, though, sometimes you can literally, through the power of listening, discern why they're saying it, what they're saying it for, and you don't necessarily have to see them to understand where they're coming from. And I truly believe in that. And Brian has taught me that so well. All right, no worries, Graham. We would still love to have you. And like I said, we definitely got to catch you up. So no worries. Totally understand. But like I said, and I believe when it comes to today's conversation about commitment and having leaders actually be a tool to help employees, or I call partners, make that environment so engaging to where those leaders are actually working really to the benefit of those employees and those partners, and whatever dynamic they're in, whether it be small business, whatever. And sometimes I truly believe too, as well, if people are there when they're there, and sometimes they call you up and say, "Hey, we need you to do this, and we need you to do that." I think, like I say, in that example about Nixon and Kennedy, you got to really be mindful of where people are at and why they say what they say and how they say it. And I think that's very critical when it comes to the point of what Brian's going to be discussing today about getting the environment right to where leaders actually create the win for those employees that work to their benefit, not the other way around. But I think it could be both a dynamic to where as a partner in that organization, I can do whatever I can to make, let's say, help Sandy get to where she needs to go, and I get her to where she wants to be. But then again, I know Sandy will, in turn, as a leader as she is, will work her hardest and her greatest way forward to help me to get to where I need to go. It's a true interconnected dynamic. And once we realize that and see for what it is, I truly believe, Sandy, there's nothing that we cannot achieve or do from a true heart centered, human centered place of a dynamic that will truly uplift and inspire humanity in a likes which probably we have not seen probably in generations.
Well, like Brian said, it's not really that the employee should be making the manager look good, but the truth is, if the employee is doing a really good job, the manager does look good, Chris. It's a two-way street, because the thing is that if the manager or the leader helps the employee to fulfill their potential so that their self-esteem and their self-confidence rises, they're going to do better work. And if they're doing better work, then they're helping the team to move things forward. And if the manager or the leader of the team is happy with that and encourages them and thanks them for their contributions, they're going to continue to do that. And other people will get on board too. So, the leader of the team is going to look good because the team is going to be performing well. And that's because they've been encouraged and they've been valued and, all those things that help people to feel good about what they're doing. And that way we are working together, and then everybody looks good. Like it's again, like I always say, not rocket science, because this is stuff, well, it's really not, Chris. It's just, it's basic common sense, and it's basic human interaction. And when humans interact in a positive and kind and respectful way, good things happen. I mean, they just do. So, it's just a matter of what are we doing? And if we are working together towards a common goal and everybody's pulling their weight and doing their part, it's a win-win for everybody. I mean, it's a win for the team. It's a win for the team leader. It's a win for the organization. You can't lose. And that's why it's so important for the team leader to know their people and help them to be the best they can be. And when that's happening, again, everybody wins. It's just, again, it's so simple. It really is so simple.
It is. And what we're doing here, bringing humanity together, brings that simplicity back to humanity. Mm-hmm. Because sometimes we overthink things, we get so analytical, or we don't think it can be done, whatever the case may be, and we don't get back to simple basics. What makes us who we are today as human beings? So we'll go back to what Graham just starts us off on with his question. He says, how do people stay committed when they are finding it challenging? What's your thoughts on that, Sandy?
Well, I think there's nothing wrong with challenging people, Chris, because I think a lot of times people will rise to the occasion. Because again, as I mentioned before, when you're doing the same thing over and over, it's bloody boring. Mm-hmm. But if you're given something new, something that's a little challenging, something that's a little bit different, it re-engages you in a different way. And I think that giving people new responsibilities and giving them the opportunity to learn how to do some different things is not a bad thing. I think it's a good thing. Because again, we're learning, we're growing, we're moving forward. Those are all good things. And I don't think that a challenge is such a bad thing. I think, you step back and go, okay, well, how can we do this? And if we can't figure it out, you get some help. There's other people around who maybe have more experience with that. So nothing wrong with asking for help. And, it's just a matter of moving forward with the challenge. It's just like, like we were talking about yesterday, somebody makes a mistake That's an opportunity to learn, especially if it's handled appropriately. If you have a nasty manager who yells and finger points and blames, then we're not going to help the people. But if instead, we have a little calm conversation in private, so it looks like we have a little problem here. What do you think you should do to fix it? What do you think we can do? And then so you listen and you encourage them to think of things to fix it. And then if there's something else you think they should try, you can offer that. And then before they go, you say, okay, so the next time you're faced with this, what do you think you should do so we don't end up with this outcome? And because obviously they said or did something that caused this problem. So let's examine that and let's come up with a different option.
Right.
And again, it's the opportunity to learn. And if they are doing most of the problem solving, then that's a good thing, because then we see that they can step back and look at this boulder on the road and figure out how to move it off the road. So, and if they do this solving, it's very unlikely that they will repeat the mistake. So as I said, mistakes, we're human. We are not perfect creatures. Mistakes are going to be made. But if you step back and problem solve, it's an opportunity to learn. And we should continue to learn. I mean, that way it just makes us better people. And there's nothing wrong with making a mistake if you figure out what to do, how to fix it, and how not to make it again. And when you encourage the employee to do that, then you're helping them to problem solve and to handle things. And because again, if you have a nasty manager, the next time that person makes a mistake, and believe me, when someone makes a mistake, they know they've made a mistake.
Right.
But what they'll do is they'll cover it up. And that will turn into a bigger problem. We don't want mistakes covered up. We want them dealt with. We want them fixed. And we want to move on. And we want to know how not to cause that mistake again. So we want to encourage people to step back and problem solve. And, when you give them those tools and that opportunity, then they're going to feel good about themselves. Yeah, I fixed that. I figured out what to do. And, the manager supported me and, whatever. And it's all good because it enhances the relationship with the manager and vice versa. And also it just makes that person feel like, yeah, I can take care of this. I know what to do, And so and again, that gives them a more positive outlook on things. And as we've also discussed, having a positive attitude is much better for problem solving and for dealing with things. And also just for handling your job in general. Because, if everything is negative, then you're not really much fun to be around. Right. Nobody likes a negative person and a complainer, and people just don't like to be around those kind of people. We don't want them. We want people who are positive and who get things done and who like to get things done and so on. And positive people are just, they'll be problem solvers, because I told you, you got your splatters, who fall down and stick to the bottom and they just stay there. And then you got your bouncers. They fall down too, but then they bounce back up and they fix it. Yeah. So you'd rather work with a bouncer than a splatter, so it's just a matter of what are we doing? And people who just give up. I mean, why would you just give up? I mean, I don't even understand that.
I won't chime on to what you just said about why do we just give up. And this is what occurs to me. Is that sometimes what happens is we tend to go to the easiest route for whatever that happens to us and why it does. We just tend to go to the easiest route because we wanted to get it done or get it out of the way or whatever. Mm-hmm. But for me, I've learned in my over 35 years of working for others, I've seen that there has been a better way to not take that easy route and say, hey, you have to put a little bit more time into this and a little bit more effort. I recognize, number one, I may not get everything right. That's just going to be the common thing that we just have to realize, not only as leaders, but more importantly as people. We don't have to finish every single thing to perfection. There's just no way that you can do that. You have to do it with your best of your ability. You got to be focused to such an extent you understand if I get X amount of stuff done, let's say within a proposal or whatever that might be, if I get that much done, to me, the way I look at it, I got that much ahead compared to where I was yesterday and
Mhm.
everything like that. And I know there's going to be some accountability and deadlines you have to meet and all that stuff. I recognize that. I understand that. But the more you keep moving forward in understanding how do I get things done in the way that I want them to be done with the result that I'm looking for or what the client's looking for, the manager, supervisor, whatever, I'm going to put my best foot forward and say, hey, I got to X place and this is what I did. And that's how, and sometimes that's all you can do because there's just no way expecting people to do something that's, let's say, number one, out of their control. If something's totally out of their control, you can't blame them for that. There's just no way. But then number two, if you give them the freedom to maneuver where they want to go and how they want to approach it, and how it's just like what you said before. Who cares how you finish it? As long as you start at A and you get to B, doesn't matter how you get there. Just let them be.
Yeah.
And I truly believe in that. But I'll go back to what Graham's question about how do people stay committed when they are finding it challenging. Well, for me, I take it from a personal perspective on that. Graham, this is what I've done when I've had it to be challenging at work. I look at it as an opportunity not only to learn but to grow.
Yep.
So I look at things to such an extent as how am I going to learn something today
Yep.
through this moment. It's like what my father taught me at a very young age. If you can learn one new thing a day, Chris, you've had a productive day. And I've always stayed by that mindset.
Yep.
And when it gets really challenging and it really gets hard, and you're thinking to yourself, am I going to get through this day? And how I'm going to get it done? You just got to remember why you're there, how did you get there, and what's most important to you in that given moment. Because it's like what Brian said many times, values change, priorities change, um, the way we interact on a day to day will change, and that's going to be there.
Well, it depends on the situation,
Right.
and we don't always have full control over situations, and especially when you're dealing with customers. I mean, you've got to figure out how to deal with them in the best way possible so that they're going to be happy and they're going to get what they want or need or so on and so forth. And again, usually a lot of it just boils down to good listening, Chris. And sadly, as I've mentioned many times, we're not taught how to listen. And it's really a shame because very few people are very good at it. And it means they're missing things and they're not paying attention and focusing, or they're not having a conversation in a location without a whole bunch of distractions going on around, which makes it harder to focus and concentrate. So it's a matter of understanding, what does good listening look like? What is active listening? And if you can learn what it is, and then you can practice it so that you get good at it. And you can get good at it. It's just a matter of understanding how it works so that you can do it well. And people who want to, and I've said this many times before, you can't make people do things they don't want to do.
Mhm.
But if somebody realizes that it would be beneficial to them to learn something and to do it, then you have a heck of a chance of showing them how to do it. And they will start doing it because they will see the benefits. So
Right.
it's just a matter of, of what the approach is. And that's why I said to you that this kind of stuff that we're trying to do, push marketing doesn't work. It just doesn't.
Yeah, and
They
if
have
we're
to come
going
to
to do
us.
it, Sandy, it's not a matter of trying to do it. We are how we show up.
Mm-hmm.
What are we committed to do to show up to others and create that environment? Like I truly believe in this, that if you create better environments, you'll create better results. I just truly believe in that.
Yeah, it's
But
true.
but what's more important too as well is how we can recognize how others show up to us. What what can I do intentionally driven to let me see Sandy for who she is at that given time? You may have a bad day, you may have a good day, whatever that might be. I got to take Sandy for who she is. But I'm committed to that. And see, if you are committed to that, not only are you in that committed stage from a both sided dynamic between me and Sandy, but we're also committed to each other to let the opportunity or conversation go wherever it goes. And it's like what Brian has taught me so well in is if you can let things be and just take it for what it is, there can even be a point of transformation that comes out of that. And transformation is so powerful and so positive because it literally comes out of nothing because you're creating it together.
Yeah. And it's more fun. I mean, it's just a matter of doing things together can be more fun than just doing something on your own. And, that's what teamwork is all about, Chris, where everybody's pulling their weight and everybody is doing things that they have the skills to do. And that's the reason why they're on a team. I mean, you put a team together because people have different abilities and different skills and different experience that they bring to the table, which can help us to accomplish different kinds of things. And that's why sometimes when you're having a team discussion, the leadership of the team may move around the table a little bit, depending on.
You've said that many times. Yes, you have. I completely agree with that. You're absolutely right. Yes.
So, it's just a matter of appreciating what the different team members bring to the table. And if we can do that and appreciate it, and then, if we're struggling with something, we know somebody's got the talent to do it. So you can, say to them, so Carla, you're really good at this. Can you come and help me with this? Because I'd like to learn a little bit more about it so I can do it better too. And Carla's not going to say no. I mean, she's going to come over and help because that's the kind of person she is. Yep. And I think that, when you work on a team, teamwork is working together and helping each other towards whatever goal it is we are trying to accomplish.
And it goes right into the dynamic what we were talking about yesterday about winning others over. How do you win others over? It's just simply being who you are. Nothing more, nothing less.
No.
And it's like what John C. Maxwell says, everything rises and falls on leadership, but also what he also says too as well, everything rises on and falls on influence. So whatever influence you have on somebody would kind of be that barometer of how you can not only win a person over to truly connect with them, but also in turn of getting them to where they want to go. Because once you get to know them and understand why they're doing what they're doing and what their strengths are, their weakest strengths, and what's their passions and purpose and missions in life, then once that comes together in relevance to who you are, not only as a leader, but also as an everyday person on the team, and saying, hey, let's do this together. Maybe your mission is literally my mission, and my mission is your mission, and it becomes our mission. And once you see that alignment there, that everything lines up like it should be, not only can we do great things and do more exponential in scope from those alignments, but also we can recognize that those alignments sometimes are not always aligning at any given moment. But we recognize not only as leaders, but as people, that when those things are not in alignment, we can say, hey, Sandy, I know you got some great things going. I love what you're doing, but there might be a few things that I say, hey, I kind of agree to disagree with you on that, but let's work toward to be better with that. And if you start it from that framework and that mindset, then you can build. It's almost like the building blocks of humanity. If you build that humanity factor so exponentially and so down into its simplistic form, those building blocks will be higher and higher and higher because you're allowing that to occur. And once that happens, the foundation becomes more solid. It's like what law number 14 in the John C. Maxwell book of the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, the law of solid ground. If that trust is there, they have that trust in you and you have that trust in them. It's just that simple. Yeah. And it can go so far if you allow that to occur.
Well, and it's just, again, you got to know the person. and you got to take time to get to know them. And the only way to do that is to shut up and listen.
Yeah.
I mean, otherwise you can't learn anything if you're talking all the time. So it's very important to ask questions and then listen very carefully to the answers to find out what a person is looking for and what they're trying to do and how they want to do it and, whatever. But you have to listen. And if you can do that, you will learn more about the person and you'll know how to deal with them more effectively.
And you said listening is an art form.
Yeah. See, hearing is an ability unless you're hearing impaired. We can all hear. Listening is very different. Listening is an art. And you have to do certain things in order to listen well, which means that you've got to come with an open mind. You've got to put aside, your own prejudices and, all those kinds of things. You got to put them aside. You got to have an open mind. You've got to have focus and concentration. And you've got to want to hear what the person has to say, because if there's too many distractions, noises and side talking and stuff, it's harder to focus. That's number one. Right. And number two, the other thing, and I've mentioned this before also, is sometimes people come to a conversation with a preconceived idea of what you're going to tell them.
Yeah.
So they don't listen either. The wall comes down and they're just waiting for you to say whatever you want to say, but they've already decided what you're going to say. But the truth is, sometimes it's not what you say. So coming with a preconceived idea doesn't mean you've come with an open mind. It means you've already decided on what's going to happen. And you don't know that's actually
and it's like what Brian has said to me many times. Sometimes what will happen is we were literally at any given moment in our day or our week or month or whatever that might be for us, if we choose to go down that path, we'll literally jump right into that reality, not knowing that we did it because we allow ourselves to do it. Because if we just put up that wall and we say we're going to have a bad day, well, we end up running have a bad day. We literally leap into that reality. But for me, though, and I want to even put this into context because it's just coming to me like this. And Brian, I'm hoping you're listening, and if not, I'll share it with you when you get on. I believe even commitment's a gift. I believe commitment really is a gift because, see, if you're committed to that commitment, then it's something that not only you share with others with, but also they can share it back with you. But then again, it keeps you accountable to who you are and why you do what you do. Mm-hmm. What's your thoughts on that, Sandy?
Well, it's true, Chris. And, we've talked about culture before, and it's up to the leadership to commit to developing and maintaining an internal culture that is going to be good for their partners. Okay. And that means it's got to be respectful. It's got to be encouraging. It's got to be supportive, and it's got to be acknowledging. Because again, if people go above and beyond, they come in early and, work hard, or they stay late, or, whatever, and nobody thanks them. Nobody notices from their perspective. Why would they do it again? Right. So you're missing opportunities for people who are willing to do that. You're turning them off, so they won't do it again. So it's a matter of how are you treating your people and how are you valuing their contributions. And it's very important that people are acknowledged, especially if they come up with a creative idea that's going to be beneficial to everybody, and everybody else on the team agrees, oh yeah, that's a good idea, we should do that, whatever. Then, sometimes there are leaders who take that for their own. Somebody else suggested it, but they'll say it's their idea. Well, I'm sorry, that's just wrong.
Yeah.
But there are people who do that. And it's a matter of understanding that that's just completely inappropriate. And you will miss opportunities if you turn people off. And when you have a good team, many people are creative and they might come up with, different ideas. But if they don't think they're going to be listened to, or if they don't think that they're going to get credit for it, they won't suggest it. There's no way. So it's a matter of how you deal with people. And the more accepting and acknowledging and the better you listen to them, the better outcomes everybody's going to have, because they're going to feel good. And when people, and I know Brian doesn't believe that it's up to the, to the organization to make people happy. This is one place where I disagree with him. If you have a good culture, you will have happy employees. And happy employees are more efficient, they're more creative, they're more productive. And as I've said before, being happy enhances your immune system, so they're sick less often. And of course, that's always a burden. When people are away, it means the rest of us have to pick up the slack for what that person would have been doing. So it puts a burden on the rest of the team. So it's a matter of, what are you trying to do? Well, you want your people to do good work. You want them to feel good about their job. And if they do, and they're proud of their company, and they're proud of the things their company does, you don't need to worry about customer service, because they're going to want the customers to be happy too. So they're going to be nice to them, and they're going to accommodate them, and they're going to help them in any way that they can, because they want them to know what a good place this is. So, again, it's just a matter of what are you trying to accomplish? And as the leader, you want to create an atmosphere or a culture, whatever you want to call it, that people can be productive in, that people can accomplish things. And so then they can feel good about it. And when they do, they work better. I mean, it just, it is what it is. And I told you, that was one thing my dad was really good at, that we always had fun in the office. And I know a lot of dental offices are not fun, but ours was. And there was a lot of laughing, and we all liked each other and supported each other. And I told you there was all kinds of cross training so people could help each other. And the tone was set by my dad, because he was the owner and he was the main dentist. There were other dentists, but they were his partners, and they were all on the same page. And that meant that all of us were on the same page, and we had fun in the office. And of course, that made the patients more comfortable. Because as I told you before, most people go to the dentist, they go, yeah, we go to the dentist, they hurt us and we pay. So they're pretty anxious and pretty stressed out when they come in there. And that just, it infects everybody. So when you can make them comfortable and make them feel good and help them to relax and be less stressed out, everybody wins. It's just a matter, again, of establishing that trust, respect, and rapport with the patient. And if you can do that, it's going to be a win-win, because they'll probably listen to you and do the things that you're suggesting, because they trust that you have their best interests at heart. Because a lot of times people don't, and they don't because they don't think you care. You're just doing your job, whatever. And it doesn't help people. And you want to help people. I mean, that's why I went into healthcare. And so I'm sure it's why Carla went in. You want to help people, but you can't help them if they don't trust you. So it's really important to establish that relationship with the people. And it's not a bad idea to establish that with your customers, Chris, because if they trust that, you're providing them with the service and the products that they're looking for, and that you're always there if there's a problem and you fix it, and, you accommodate them, and you're nice to them, then they're going to keep coming back. I mean, it's just, again, this is not a rocket science thing. It's a human thing. And if human beings are nice to one another, they're kind to one another, they listen to one another, they help one another, all these kinds of things, then it's a good place to work, and it's a good place to be. And I told you before, if you come into a retail store or an office that has a poisonous culture, it's palpable. You can feel it when you walk in. It's uncomfortable. Whereas if you come into a place where people get along and they like working together, and generally everyone is pretty happy, you come in there and you feel good. You don't want to leave, So what are you creating? And as business people, it's very important that we create positive, nice environments, not just for our customers, but for the people that we work with, because we want them to stay. Because the other thing that's a huge problem when you have a bad culture is it means you're going to have very high turnover, which is very disadvantageous, because your customers won't be happy because they won't recognize anybody when they come in. And that's not comfortable either. And secondly, that's very expensive because it means you're always
Yes.
having to find new people and train them and so on and so forth. It's a friggin' pain in the ass. So if you establish, like my dad had people that worked for him for 30, 40 years, Chris. They didn't go anywhere else because they liked the job and they liked how they were treated and how they were appreciated. And, it's just a matter of what are you doing? So, if you can, I mean, he was hard on me because I was his kid, but that was a whole different story.
Yeah.
But, I told you, I finally stood up to him and he backed off. And it was the same thing when my brother came to work for us. And, my brother also was a good dentist. I don't think he was quite as good as my dad, but he was good. And dad was kind of hard on Dave, which is why he rose to the occasion. And, it's just a matter of what are you trying to do? I mean, my dad was very hard on himself and he expected everybody else to do really good work too. And it was an expectation that we all sort of rose to the occasion for because we knew there were benefits if we did. We
Yes.
even had a lab guy right in the office. So a lot of the lab work, for the gold crowns and stuff was done right in the office. We had a guy right there.
Wow.
So it didn't even need to go out. And Jim was terrific. I mean, he was really good. I don't know where my dad found him, but anyway, and he set up a lab right in the office. And so it was very convenient. And, and he was also a nice guy. And we did a lot of laughing with him. I mean, he was quite a character. But again, it was an opportunity to show patients what they could possibly have, in terms of, because Jim could come out and he could show them, a gold crown or a porcelain fused gold crown, or, what a bridge looked like, or, what a precision partial looked like, which my dad kind of invented, or the regular partials, and different kinds of things. Jim could come out and show them, actually show them something, rather than just hearing a verbal description, which, as I mentioned before, if you don't know what it is, a verbal description doesn't give you a picture.
Right.
It doesn't. I mean, as a person with a dental background, if somebody wanted to describe some of that stuff to me, I knew what it was, so it didn't matter. I could picture it right away. But if you don't know what it looks like, hearing a bunch of words doesn't help you. And that's why I told you, in a lot of dental offices, there's hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of work sitting in the patient's charts that they haven't moved forward on because they haven't been able to make an informed decision because they don't know what the hell the dentist is telling them. So,
All right. Well, we have now another question, probably from Graham, and this is what Graham has said. Um, I'm going to refresh the stream, and it says, "What if people struggle with the commitment regardless of the environment? What can they do to keep their focus on what
it is they
intend
intend
to
to do.
do?"
Well, I guess, different people have more trouble doing that, Chris. I guess it depends on if you're a doer or not. Some people really are procrastinators and they don't get much done. And, if you don't if you aren't able to organize yourself and make a, sort of a plan of how to do things, you don't get things done. And there's a lot of people that aren't very good at that. And so they don't accomplish much.
Well, Graham, I'm going to answer it this way. When you say, "What if people struggle with commitment regardless to environment?" When it comes to the environment, it's like what Brian has said to me many times, and I know he shared it with you too, Graham. Is the people who really are responsible for the environment is everybody. Everybody's responsible in that environment. So when it comes to that commitment from either an individual level or a team level, everyone should have this. I won't say not the same level of commitment because every commitment level will probably be different from each and every single person on the team or inside the organization. But to you as an individual, you can make that an individual commitment and say, "I am going to show up regardless of what the environment shows up to me as." If it's going to be a positive day and people are positively speaking to me and everything like that, I can take that for a win. And if it's going to be a negative and everyone's in the Debbie Downer mode and whatever, and they're splatting everywhere, splat, 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 they're everywhere, We need the bouncers, you know. I truly believe, though, we can even take that and say, hey, how can I make this better? How can I show up better with that? And then what can they do to keep their focus when they are or on what they're intending to do? That comes to another form of commitment, Graham. That they have to even be committed to the commitment of the intention of why they're doing and why they're doing it. Because like what Brian has said many times, your values change, your commitment levels change, and that can be done on a minute by minute basis. It can be done on an hourly by hourly basis. It can go day to day, week to week. And if we recognize that and just take it for what it is, I believe that commitment can still shine through because we deem it so. I choose to do that from Chris's perspective. It might be different for Sandy, might be different for Brian or Carla or you, Graham, but at least I'm committed to you to show up with that commitment. And I'll just be honest and open. Hey, I'm going to have a bad day today. Just got in a car accident. Someone rear-ended me, and next thing you know, my day's kind of shot. But I'm not going to let that, to a certain extent, carry over to create that environment that won't create that better result because that has nothing to do with the work
No.
to a certain degree. It's just another framing context of what happens to every one of us in life. We have life happens. And once we understand that life happens,
Yep.
we just got to take it with a grain of salt, go with the flow the best that we can, and make it the best we can. And to me, that's the best thing you can do.
I also said, Chris, before that, no one's life is a long, straight, smooth road. It doesn't work like that. Stuff happens. And most of the stuff that happens, we have no control over. The only thing we have total control over is our own attitude.
Yep.
And again, if you decide that you're going to have a bad day, you'll have a bad day. If you decide no matter what comes your way, you're going to be positive and you're going to find a way to deal with it, then you will. And people who have that approach to life usually do a lot better and they're happier because they will problem solve and they will deal with the obstacles and whatever gets thrown in their path because they've decided that they can do that. And so they do. And that's a better way to go through life than, to have bad days all the time and negativity and complain and, all that kind of stuff.
And I totally resonate with that, Sandy, because for many years when I was younger, I was the epitome of Debbie Downer. I was always in the down mode. I was literally splatting myself everywhere, left and right, because I just didn't care. But you know what? I changed that dynamic because, again, it comes to the power of intent.
Yeah.
I was intending to become better because I saw that opportunity. Yeah. I knew that I had to get myself out of that rut and say, I am going to make it better today, regardless of what the environment throws at me. Because you're absolutely right. Your attitude is the one thing you can truly control in your life. And how you also, the other part is how you show up to people. Those are the two things that we can have control over. But also, more importantly, when you truly reflect on it, when you go into that conversation or that opportunity, and you kind of get in your mind's eye and you get yourself right, and you're thinking, wow, what can I learn today? How can I learn from Sandy or Carla or Brian or Sarah or whoever else is in my life at that given moment? And can I be present enough to let that occur? Can I let that to be so much of an intent focus that it's almost like what Brian says before, especially when it comes to athletes. Athletes sometimes are the best people that you can shine the example on of how they get into a flow state. They literally will just be on the streak and they will kick 10 goals in 2 games, or they will throw touchdowns like left and right, and they just have that way of doing things. And I believe you can even do that even from a workplace dynamic where if you do the right thing and you come in with the right attitude, the right frame of mind, the right kind of go get them, I'm going to get this thing done, more better things will happen with you and for you because you're allowing that to occur. And when you share that with others, say, hey, you can do this too. Again, it's just like that Derek Seavers uh, YouTube video that we saw a couple of weeks back on how to start a movement. Is when that first guy's doing the dance and he's all gung ho and everything like that. He might be the one that starts it all, but really, in reality, the person who really starts it all is that second and third person who really get. Those are the people who are really getting the momentum started and everything. So those are the people who really get it done. And I just I believe Graham just sent this to Brian because I just got a message. So hopefully Brian will join us here shortly. Brian, Graham just sent it to you. So you should be able to jump on here shortly. So, and if not, I will send it to you again because it'll be in the live stream. Join here and excuse me.
Bless you.
Thank you. And there it is for you, Brian. Join. I didn't mean to say her. I forgot the E on the end. So join here. That would be the one. In fact, I'll just delete that and just so. All right. There'll be that link in. It says just StreamYard. There we go.
Yeah.
That's the one you can use, Brian. All righty. So we'll be waiting for you here. So Brian, here it is. That's the link. And we would love to have you on board here in a second. But yeah, Sandy, I just believe there's so much, and that's what we're waiting on Brian to join us and let him lead out.
What you said, Chris, one of the last things you said about intention. I think that if people have no intention to accomplish anything, then they don't. It's a matter of how are you running your life? Do you want to move forward? Do you want to be able to do different things? Do you want to learn different things? What are you doing with your life? I mean, I personally get bored doing the same thing over and over. Like, to me, it's just boring. I like to try new things. I like to learn to do things even in a different way because it's, as I've mentioned before, it's good for your brain. Our brains are designed to create new neurons, new brain cells, as long as we're alive. But only if we challenge it to open new neural pathways. And if we're always doing everything like a robot, exactly the same, it's actually not very healthy for our brains. And that's why what Carla says, where we should be growing and learning every day, that is healthy for your brain. And people who retire and have no plan on how they're going to keep themselves mentally and physically active go downhill very quickly. Yep. It's really important to stay mentally and physically active. And, especially at my age, I mean, I exercise every day. I do pretty much a full workout every morning for an hour. And the reason I do that is because I'm afraid to stop, Chris. Because if I do, at my age, it would be very hard to get back my level of fitness. Because as you age, it's harder to do that. And I've always been very physically active. I've done so many different sports. And when I was doing all those sports, you got to train on a regular basis to keep fit to be able to do them. I mean, I played baseball. I played field hockey. I played basketball. I played tennis. I did track and field. I did sprinting, and I threw the shot put, and I did high jumping. I did all kinds of stuff. And you've got to be fit to do those things. Hi, Brian. We're very glad you're here. We miss you. So, it's important. And it's the same thing with our mental strength. If we're not using our brains and learning new things and growing, your brain sort of gets tired, and it gets lazy. So it's really important to have challenges and to learn new things, or at least new ways to do things.
So,
It's very important to do
yep,
that.
yep,
And as I say, I mean, I guess I just get bored easily. I don't
yep.
like doing the same. I don't like being a robot.
So,
I really look forward to learning something new or doing something different. Or, I mean, it's one of the reasons why Yale and I enjoy traveling so much, because traveling is so interesting.
yep,
And as a result of that, we like to eat all different kinds of food. Like Saturday night, we're going out with friends to a Thai restaurant.
nice.
And here in Vancouver, we are most fortunate because we have a very, very diverse community here. And any
Yep.
kind of food you could ever imagine in your wildest dreams, we have probably 10 or 12 different restaurants minimum that provide that kind of food. It's
Nice.
it's unbelievable. I mean, we have South Asians, we have Japanese, we have Chinese, we have Africans, we've got Italians, we've got French, we've got everything here. And so we have all kinds of wonderful restaurants to go to. Plus, we get great entertainment because, they all have different cultural events.
Right.
And so they have parades and they have festivals and they have entertainment, and it's marvelous. There's just so much to do. And that's one of the reasons why I enjoy living in Vancouver so much, because
Nice,
there's so much to do here.
Yep.
Different.
So Brian is now joining us, and now we can get into some of what Brian was going to talk about today. And we're probably going to carry it over to next Wednesday. So, Brian, the floor is yours, sir.
Well, I just heard something real quick in terms of learning new things. I remember reading somewhere along the line that they teach people, and one of the ways to combat things like Alzheimer's is to learn new ways of doing stuff. Because our brains memorize certain patterns of how to drive to work or how to do something, that if you drove different ways to work each day, you would have different receptors to call on when some of those other receptors ended up no longer providing the necessary connections. So yeah, no, I apologize for being late. Was tied up with some stuff. So, but happy to have a conversation, Chris. Where would you like to start?
Well, you wanted to go into the realm of commitment and how leaders can actually work in the favor of employees.
Yeah, I guess one of the things that's kind of interesting that has shown up more and more in the last, I don't know, 20 months or so, is this notion that we need other people to tell us and to show us how to go about doing things, whether that be living life or working in a business or a company. And there seems to be a large amount of conversation surrounding the nature of leadership, of what we want them to be. Um, in this kind of idea that we need a leader or a manager to be present in a company to guide us. And I find it kind of interesting because the conversation tends to be negative towards managers and leaders, and they're not doing enough, or they're not here, or they're not nice, or they're creating a toxic environment. And I find it kind of fascinating because one of the things that I remember when I was younger in business and going through school, and even now, is that how do we utilize the people around us for our own benefit? And I don't mean that in a manipulative way. I mean that those are the people who are in these positions. Very often, we don't have much in way of say in that. We didn't hire them, and that's who it is. So, how do we learn how to deal with people that we might not otherwise deal with on a day-to-day business kind of way? So, instead of complaining about our managers and leaders of what they're not doing, flip it around, Chris, and say, okay, here's a person who is my superior, if that's how you want to look at it in a hierarchical way in a company. How do I utilize them to my benefit so that I can be successful in my job? And in turn, by me being successful and almost giving credit to the leader in a sense and allowing them to do their job, in effect, me being able to do my job. One of the things that I recognize is that many industries are incestuous. People go from industry to industry, company to company, even if it might be, whether it be education or dentistry or chemicals or M&A, they're still small industries. Most people know who most other people are. If you're in a business or a company long enough or an industry, you tend to know a lot of the other players, whether you go to conferences or otherwise. And I always find it kind of fascinating that we tend to say negative things about people who we're currently working for. In 6, 12, 18, 24 months down the road, you might find out that that person is now at another company and you're looking to move into another company and they just happen to be there hiring. So, people don't forget those things very often. So I guess my question is, can we have a different conversation for people in the workplace that, yeah, managers and leaders are there doing the best they can as well. They might not always be perfect, and yeah, maybe they're obnoxious and rude and don't always cares. Like at some level, that shouldn't have any impact on my performance. And you know, whether it's a selfish way of looking at it or not, I don't know. I tend to look at the workplace as how do I be successful? How do I make other people around me successful? And in turn, I don't know where they're going to be. Like if I have a client and I'm not nice to my client, or I say bad things, or I might say something to the wrong person, what happens when that client is at another company and I'm looking to get another job or, get hired to do something? Like, is it going to be that easy? So I just always have found it kind of an interesting conversation, Chris, where we're very quick to blame the manager and leader for not doing their job appropriately. Yet we all have the ability to take responsibility for our own jobs. And it's a bit like, what side of an equation are you on? Are you with the cause side or are you with the effect side? And what I'm seeing a lot of is that most people like to blame others for their downtroddenness, right? The pandemic happened, so I can't do something. My boss is mean, so I can't do something. The industry isn't growing, so I can't be successful, right? Even though some of it might be valid in terms of things are happening, why is that always an excuse for not being successful? So maybe we can turn it around and say, no, I'm the creator of it. It's my life. No one else is telling me how to go about my life. I have a choice in the matter. I'm creating the happiness or not happiness. And I think people miss that to some extent in the workplace, or at least in a lot of the conversations, that maybe we actually have more to say in it. And the reason is, put it this way, like you've all been in a college classroom in university somewhere along the line. And when you walked into that classroom as a student, you were probably waiting for the teacher to teach you something or tell you something about a subject. And what happens is we kind of give away our own power to other people. And instead of keeping it for ourselves and not relying on someone else to tell us what to do, we can utilize them, but ultimately I'm the one that has to figure out how to do it and how to work and how to be successful. No one else can do it. Like I can read all the books on management and leadership I want. Cool. I know all the theories. But they're useless in practicality because every situation is different. And when I'm in a position to lead others, I'm not sitting there thinking about, oh, what theory do I need to apply here in order to be successful? I'm reading a situation, I'm talking to someone, and I'm making a decision based on the facts that are in front of me, right? It's a bit like The Economist. I told you that, but most economic textbooks are written as if people act a certain way. And it's they're out for the BS that they put in these books. And it's as if you went to the store and you went to buy something. they believe that you will act as if you take into consideration the interest rate and how that's going to impact your retirement on, what you're going to buy at that moment. Right. And I know it's funny because we don't go that way. That's not how people operate. And I'm not saying there aren't some people who do. What I'm saying though is that we like to put processes around things and justify things from a particular way, but we miss the actual interaction with people. And Graham had written something about how do you commit to something if you don't want to do it, I think. And in business, what are we really committed to? And I guess in my experience, most people are committed to looking good, sounding smart, not embarrassing themselves, right? Making good impressions, having the right answers. But are we really truly committed to actually doing our work and getting it done? Now, obviously, there are people who do that, and I'm not saying there aren't. My point is, how do you get yourself to do something you don't want to do? We don't like everything about our jobs. Not every job is enjoyable 100% of the time. Most people don't like paying taxes.
But
Most people don't like driving to certain places.
But I
But
think
what's your level of commitment? See, I'm doing it because I'm committed to doing it. I have committed to doing this. There are no other options.
okay, but you see, I think that not only does the manager have to get to know their people so they know how to handle them. Everybody's different. So you've got to get to know the people so you know in a way which buttons to press to get them to do what they want. But the employee also has to get to know their manager and know how to deal with them in terms of, getting along with them and so on and so forth. Because you're right, everybody's different.
Correct.
And,
Correct.
one rule doesn't work for everyone, or one kind of behavior doesn't work for everyone. You've got to know the person and know what kinds of things to expect in terms of what you do, what the outcome will be, and so on and so forth. But the manager or the leader has to also know the same thing, because if they don't know how to deal with the people on their team, they're not going to be able to get the best out of them. So they need to listen to those people, find out what matters to them so that they can, in a way, help them to be able to be successful. Because then everybody wins.
Of course, it's learning and understanding people, but I look at it that I'm not going to rely on a manager to get to know me in order to be able to do something. I'm going to take the initiative and act and be a certain way so that they have to do what I want them to do based on my interpretation of things, not the other way around. I'm not going to sit back and wait for them to get to know me. Like, I'm going to be the one that's going to dictate that. Like, I have the power to do it. They're hiring me to do a job. I'm going to do my job, and I'm going to tell you, this is how I work. Now, that only doesn't work in certain situations, right? I mean, you can't perform a surgery any way you want. You can't fly a plane every way you want, right? I mean, obviously, there's an aspect of certain industries that you have to follow guidelines, right? I mean, Chris, in the restaurant, it's not like you can cook the food any way you want, even though some people probably do. But yeah, there's an aspect of that. So the commitment, though, is what are you really committing to? See, you just said choice is freedom. I would say that commitment is freedom. When you truly commit to something, you're not looking behind you for other options and other alternatives. I've committed to doing this, and this is it. Here I am. And there's no other options for the period of time that whatever I'm doing. So what happens is people aren't really committed to what they say they're committed to. People say they're committed to their job or listening to someone or being present with someone. But are their actions in alignment with what they say they're committed to? Now, I would venture to say most of us suck with our commitments. We're pretty lousy with it because we're always looking for the next best thing or another opportunity or another alternative. And that's not in all cases. I'm just saying in general, people are pretty lousy with what they say they're committed to. And the good thing is, Chris, is that all of this stuff can be practiced. You can practice commitment. You can practice concentration. You can practice, intention and paying attention and all of this stuff. So in business, what I hear people say, whether it be conversations we have or other posts that I read or conversation with people in general in business, they tend to be committed to looking good and not embarrassing themselves. That seems to be a very, very strong underlining context that people live their life from. Because if they didn't, you wouldn't see the answers that they give or the behavior that they have, right? I mean, we're so trained to gratuitously give answers to people. And it's kind of like, well, I don't know. Like, we can have a conversation and figure it out, but like, if someone tells me, how do you sell their business? My question would be, oh, I don't know. I would find out what kind of business you have, what's going on. Like, I can tell you how we sell other businesses or buy other businesses or the process that we've used over the last 50 years. But that doesn't mean that it's going to be applicable to your business.
Right.
Or your life. And this is where it's kind of interesting because we talk about looking outside of ourselves for answers, which most people do. Well, just look at the world. Look at what social media is. Look at religion, right? I mean, it's always, there's an answer out there and I have to go find it. Well, maybe that isn't necessarily the case. What if you already have the answer? Right? And we talk about trust and all these things, but we don't trust ourselves. If we did, we wouldn't be asking the questions that we're asking.
That's very true. Very true. So let's go to Graham's question.
That's where it comes from, Chris.
Yeah. So let's go to Graham's question. And he says, what if people are allowed the manager's salary to affect how they behave? For example, should they be able to do A, B, and C if they get paid X? How can they deal with that?
Oh, I mean, there's nothing. I don't have an issue with merit-based pay. It depends. I mean, will it let you, like, in other words, is he asking if a manager gets paid a lot, will that affect my behavior in the workplace?
That's what it says. He says, what if people allow the manager's salary to affect how they behave? For example, should they be able to do A, B, and C if they get paid X? How do they deal with that?
Yeah, that's a you issue. If you're going to let someone else's income or how they're treated in the workplace differently than you, if you're going to let that bother you, that's a you issue. Like, the world's not fair. Business isn't fair. People play favorites. People make decisions. Not everything is appropriate. Why do we worry so much about other people? Like, we're so busy worrying about what our neighbor's doing that we don't even pay attention to what we're doing. Like, we're too busy pointing fingers of this person's doing that, that person's not doing that, they should be asking this, they should be acting that way. Okay. Are you doing everything you're saying? Because chances are we're not.
It comes back to us in the end one way or the other.
Well, it's easy to throw stones at someone who lives in a glass house.
Yep.
Like, my point isn't that we don't take care of each other, and it's not that we're not supportive of one another. My point is we don't even bother to take care of ourselves. That we're more worried about what other people are doing in our lives, that we're missing out on all the wonderful things that we can experience ourselves. Like, I don't know, I saw actually a very funny picture came through the other day on social media, and it was a person sitting at a desk. It was like a drawing, staring out the window of a cat, and then it said pre-internet. With internet, the person sitting in front of the on the table with a computer with a picture of the cat on the computer. Like, we've so disengaged from reality in many ways, Chris, that it's like we live through other mediums. And I'm not saying it's going to change. I'm just saying we tend to forget that we're all here doing the same thing. We're doing the best we can. Like, I guess one of the things I would say in call to action, Chris, would be really nice. Let's remove the word should from our vocabulary. Let's stop telling people that they should do something. Because it's not my job to tell anyone what to do or how to do it. Figure it out. Like, you want an answer for something? Okay, well, we can have a conversation about what a solution of something might happen. But gratuitously giving an answer to someone doesn't help them.
You've got to encourage them to problem solve for themselves, Brian. That's how they learn.
Yeah. But we don't do that enough, Sandy, unfortunately. It seems like it's very instantaneous. I want the answer. Help me out.
Well, but as I've said before, I think that good leaders or managers would encourage their employee when they've made a mistake to not finger point and blame, but to say to them, okay, well, we've got this outcome. What do you think we should do now to fix it? And encourage them to come up with how to fix it. And then before they go and say, okay, before you go and fix it, the next time you're faced with this situation, what do you think you should do so you don't end up with this kind of outcome? And that way you're just encouraging them to think. And if you encourage them to do that, then they will learn, because mistakes are opportunities to learn, but only if you let the person who made the mistake figure out how to fix it.
Yeah, agreed. And the one of the best ways I've found to be able to do that is to ask a lot of questions.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And what that does, Chris, is it gets people to go inside of their experience and examine their experience. Because I can give you an answer of what I'm seeing, but that's less valuable than you getting in touch with what you're experiencing about whatever it is that you're experiencing. Because that's ultimately going to teach you far faster than what I could tell you.
Plus, it encourages them to problem solve, Brian, which they should be doing.
Yeah.
You know, otherwise just go to the manager or the leader and get them to fix it. Well, I'm sorry. No.
Yeah.
Not the right answer.
I think it's interesting. Like, we can blame everyone we want for where we are.
What good does that do?
One of the ways I heard it said to me that was really fascinating once was, blame yourself for everything that has gone wrong in your life, and give credit to everyone else where things have gone right in your life.
It's an interesting approach.
See, it's a matter of context and taking a stand for something, right? When I say be cause in the matter, or take cause or be cause in your life, it's a place to take a stand from. Check it out. What does the world look like from there if you actually take a stand for I am the generator of this? And I'm not saying it is true for everyone. I'm just saying check it out for yourself. See how that fits and feels. And I can just make the assumption based on what I read and see in the media or otherwise, but that would be really uncomfortable for a lot of people. Right? Now, nobody's perfect with it, Chris. We're all human. We all blame people. Things happen. It's a constant practice. It's a constant game. That's the game of it, is that we're always evaluating and reevaluating and assessing and reassessing. It's not like we we get it, and all of a sudden you're going to be that way forever. Things change, people change, situations change.
Values change.
And a lot of it you don't have control over, Brian. That's the other thing. Stuff happens.
Yeah.
We don't have a lot of control over it. The only thing we can totally control is our attitude.
Yeah, how we respond to a situation. Exactly.
Exactly. And so if you've got a positive attitude and you're prepared to step back and problem solve, you'll keep moving forward. I mean, it's fine. But if you expect everybody else to fix things, good luck.
Yeah. Chris, it's as Andrew said, it's what I've explained in the way of that what happens is different from what we say happens. Yep. And we end up collapsing them, and we think they're one and the same, but they're not.
No.
Yep. You're absolutely right. And my call to action would be simply this. And we'll probably get back more into about the commitment part later, maybe on next Wednesday's call. But I just say just be committed to be committed. And if you're willing to be committed to your commitment, not only to yourself, but also to others, and then show up in that way that you can say, hey, this is the way I show up today, and just take that for what it is, I think that's a great starting point.
Well, I think also people have to own what they do, Chris.
I agree.
You got to be accountable. You make a mistake, you own it. But if you can step back and fix it, then you'll have an opportunity to learn. And if you really figure out how to fix it and how to prevent it from happening again, you're less likely to make that same mistake. But you've got to step back and figure it out. And if you do, then you're going to learn from it. If you expect somebody else to fix it, you don't learn anything.
Nope.
You really don't. So,
and most mistakes people make in what we're talking about aren't life and death. I mean, we're not talking about the specific, obviously certain jobs and industries and professions that can be the case, but I don't think we're having that conversation. So to Sandy's point, yeah, I mean, you make a mistake, okay, oops,
yeah,
moving on, we'll figure it out, and what's next? Like, we're not here in the military making a decision that could be life or death.
Yeah.
Chris, we're talking about cooking food and talking to a client, or doing something a little less drastic.
And it goes back to where Carla said many times on calls. So what? Now what?
Yeah. And that's exactly how people have to look at it. Because again, nobody's life is a long, straight, smooth road. It doesn't work that way. There are going to be problems. And if you're not prepared to solve them, then you're not going to learn anything. And you're just going to be what I call a splatter. Those people who fall down and stick to the ground. I'd rather be a bouncer. Yeah, I'll fall down too, but I'm going to bounce back up again, and I'm going to fix this because I'm not going to stay splatted on the ground. So it's just a matter of what your approach is. And I think that if you have a more positive approach of moving on rather than staying stuck, it's different.
And Brian, you got to love this call to action from Graham. Call to action. Be committed to eating sweet potato and avocado. It gets results.
What the heck does that mean?
Yeah, he's struggling with keeping his commitment to saying he wants to do something, and then he gets sidetracked.
Okay, well, I got to go, Chris.
All righty. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today for Conversations for Humanity. We'll see you tomorrow for Humanity Happy Hour, hosted by none other than our great partner and friend, Caller Finnegan. You guys have a great day.
Everyone.